I think I'll start with a story. About 10 years back, I was at a IT and BPO services major, and one of our banking clients was, and this was the RPA era, so we had a banking client saying, you know what, where are the bots? It's been 6 months, where are the bots? I want to see how many have you implemented, right? So we were challenged. We went back, we put our heads together, took out the SMEs from the floor, got the BRD set up, rolled out some bots. Some gave maybe a couple of FTEs benefits, some gave maybe 15 FTEs benefits. But by the end of the year, we realized that there was so much of fear and disruption that the RPA wave created. And now, I don't know how many of the organizations still have a RPA COE or the automation COE or the citizen developer bot or whatever it became, right? But yeah, the learnings from that, I think we should look at from what we are doing today in the agentic AI era, right? So I'll share some of my thoughts and happy to take questions. I'll start with a trivia, right? 97 is when I joined IIT Delhi MBA. Around the same year, we had this Deep Blue versus Garry Kasparov, and he lost. So that was like a revelation to a lot of people that, hey, the machine could beat the human, right? Again, he said, AI won't replace humans, but the humans who use AI will replace those who are not using, right, AI. And then fast forward to July 17th, I don't know how many of you noticed that actually Magnus Carlsen beat ChatGPT on chess without even losing a single piece. I don't know if there are any chess aficionados. But, we are amidst a global AI wave, right? You heard the previous fireside chat as well, and the entire session and the theme today as well. I feel that we are few are surfing. Mostly, I think we are still paddling in shallow waters. The paradox of AI adoption, right, and taking the cue from the RPA, story that I just shared. This is from a good friend, Rajiv Gupta, BCG. He says, 83% believe, and he did a survey about 6 months back, GCCs primarily. So he says 83% believe that Gen AI actually boosts productivity. 39% are actually using it, right? So the dichotomy is there. 70% have started the pilots, but only 5% have scaled them. So this experimentation to actual production with all the hallucination or whatever, the reliability, etc., right? The biggest point is, and there are humans in the loop, right? So you are talking about people managing these bots, right? They're managing these agents. Previously, it was humans managing those bots, right? It was always assisted bots. Here also, you might have a scenario, and we've been discussing that, the people running agents or super agents running agentic AI. So the mass training programs that are being rolled out for upskilling aren't really working. The impact is hard to track, and there is a big skills gap. So we rolled out a survey of our own, in conjunction with GCC. Those of you know, they're in the GCC field setup. So we rolled out for 27 GCCs, 56 leaders, and close to about 111 employees. So we said, let's understand where the gap is coming from, right? So whether, we started asking from a survey and interviews that are the employees actually using? How often are they using? So while the leaders said, 30%, the employees were actually using 74% of the time, right? So there is a dichotomy there. So the leaders are underestimating the usage actually, right? At the same time, are we tracking the AI usage, right? In terms of, hey, I have provisioned the licenses, but is that actually being used, right? So 51% are tracking both the output, the productivity, and the quality of these agentic AIs. The employee says almost 40% are not even aware that this is being tracked, right? The ROI is being tracked. So tracking the processes may lack that transparency or the communication, right? We always say change management, you need to have communication as the bedrock. So I feel there is a gap there. Then we said, what about the proficiency? What do you think? How much with the leaders as well as the next level in the pyramid? So 88% immediate, intermediate, 6% are experts, calling themselves experts. From the employees, it's 0%. They are still not experts quite there. I think there is a gap there in leadership, overestimating the expertise that people have on the ground. The impact on satisfaction or the engagement, right? When you're rolling that out, 60% believe that it is beneficial. And that's more or less, I think 63% agree. So there is an agreement from the top leadership as well as the employees. The last point is impact on efficiency and outcome, right? So we've been talking about people experimenting, investing, again, pretty much the same amount of licenses and whatnot, the tokens, etc. But the impact is still 64% feel it is beneficial, none feel it's essential, and then the leaders may undervalue the AI's critical role is the underlying message. So what do I want to lead this with, right? And my good friend Kishore, he's the CTO and co-founder of ProHance, so we keep on debating that have we ever wondered how many people on the team actually use the AI licenses that you've provisioned? So in your dev teams, you would have provisioned Cursor or whatever. Are people actually using it, right? And where is really the disconnect coming between the promise and impact? What is really holding us back? So some of these pointers, and no surprises out there. Everybody spoke about in the fireside chat also about the data skills. I feel there is a merit to look at AI adoption. And why is it important? Obviously, any successful implementation depends on the visibility, engagement, and ROI, right? I feel that we should move towards like a AI adoption index, right? Start looking at, what's the depth of usage in your teams. Start looking at where is actually AI contributing towards productivity. Has it enhanced that productivity, right? Look at how many employees from your population, month over month, week over week, really are using and getting upskilled on that. And, those usage patterns will drive, eventually the outcomes, right? So we came up with like a framework and we were debating. So this is what I feel is a 4-step framework. You could have your own. But I think the tracking the usage on AI adoption with the real-time visibility on actually using the tools, as well as what's the adoption pattern between teams, right? You might have provisioned licenses for all. The next piece is more critical, driving the behavioral change. So first and foremost, you need to identify where are the points of friction coming from, right? I mean, we had the RPA wave, the same kind of noise, people will lose jobs. And the same narrative is out there in the newspapers and media and all the companies. But please identify the points of friction, right? And then with that, you start customizing your, change management, right? It's not a one-size-fits-all. So capture the disengagement analytics, again, using AI or otherwise, and start driving that. And the last point is most critical, right? How do you quantify the ROI? What is your investment, total cost of ownership? What are the benefits that you had? People say 50%, 15%, what's the right number? And measure that, right? So I think we tried to look at some of our clients and how freshers versus tenured employees were using Gen AI and how the usage really improved over time. And these are the signals, right? And then looking at how you could actually get the value from those, if people were using versus some teams that were not using, right? How do you zone in into which processes they are using and how does it help vis-a-vis the traditional side of the house, right? Again, like I said, change management is critical. I think a lot of leaders spoke about it in the morning as well. That is the hidden, multiplier effect. But getting that, the spotting the resistance early is critical, right? Otherwise, you might keep on provisioning licenses and believing it will work. It may not work. I think the aha moment is, any change does not fail because it is bad. It's because people disengage, right? I know time's up. I'll just take a minute more. I think operationalizing this also is equally important. How do you kind of drive that? You have a lot of teams. A lot of workforce engagement platforms are able to get you what we call a chart, which can help you understand whether GenAI is actually being used with your core apps versus just for content, etc. Right? So this is a context switching map that we draw. So this is for each employee. You can get it and understand how the usage is actually being done on the floor. And I'll end with this. We all, I think, are leaders driving GenAI with the same vigor and the rigor that we did with RPA. The learnings are very important from that 10 years back to make sure that what's your baseline and what's your ROI. Yeah? Thank you.